Do you feel there's a changing attitude towards Farang in Thailand? What do you think makes a successful relationship between a foreigner and a Thai? Quick curveball. How did you meet your wife? Times where you thought money was going to run out and you weren't going to make it? Was there any time in particular you thought, no, I've had enough? Privacy an issue on the island or not? What is your biggest struggle on the island? Here on Koh Chang at the moment, I'm doing my rounds up and down different parts of the island from north to south. And today I'm with a friend of mine. His name is Dave, or affectionately known as Mago, around the island on account of him being behind the Island magazine and the island map. Today Dave's going to be telling us a little bit about his life here in Thailand over the past 25 years, how things have changed, what it's like as an expat to live here, and he's going to be telling us about some of the businesses that he's involved in, including the Pearl Luxury Pool Villas here and a restaurant that he has just around the corner called Kapow. So let's go and have a chat with Dave and have a little look around his place. All right, Dave, thanks for inviting me here today, and we're here at the Pearl Luxury Pool Villas. How long have you had this particular place for?
Hi Ryan. The pool villas opened in early 2020, just in time for COVID.
Oh, just before or not?
We were fully open for 2 months, 2 really good months, and then it changed.
Oh, you're joking. So was that a big impact on you, or financially and in the business?
Yeah, because my business partner and I, we'd sunk a lot into this, and obviously it took a while to get it together. Building takes time in Thailand, as you know, and then. And sure, for everybody, I think COVID was a tough time, but it was fairly challenging. The one good thing, I suppose, was, we designed for nightly rentals, really, and for sort of visiting tourists. But so many people were trapped here during COVID or were staying here because it was a better place to be, that we had long-term residents. So at least, we had something to get by with. And then
so you had captive residents, really? They had to stay, didn't they?
Trapped, yeah. We didn't let them out, It was like...
You've actually been in Thailand 25 years, did you say?
Yeah, that's right. And here all the time, basically.
Oh, so you've seen then Koh Chang change over the past 25 years?
Yeah, a little bit, to say the least. I mean, it started out as sort of a, bamboo beach huts, backpacker resort kind of thing, and that was great back in the day. And then obviously it's developed over time as this part of Thailand's developed, and all of Thailand, I suppose.
Now, what did you do originally? You're originally from the UK. What work were you in?
I was originally an accountant and did that for about 10 years. I was living in Manchester and then London, and then I emigrated to Australia. Then I unemigrated from Australia came over here, I suppose. Yeah. Really loved it over there, but I guess I don't know. I was looking for a bit more sort of excitement and adventure, and I got that.
Did you come as a backpacker or? Yes.
Well, I've got a good pal of mine has a bar and restaurant and resort now in White Sand Beach called 15 Palms, Tony. So I knew him from before, and I was backpacking around Southeast Asia, and then popped in for a visit, liked it, met a girl.
Oh, you did?
On you go.
Are you still together?
Yes. Yeah. My wife and I have been together 25 years pretty much now.
25 years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Kind of.
Yeah, you did.
Up to now.
And so what was your first business then when you started to get stuck into doing your own sort of thing? What was that?
It took a little while to get set up over here, and I still did a couple of little work shifts over in Australia, but then had the idea of doing a tourist guide, back in the sort of pre-internet days when printed paper was the only way you could find out about a thing.
Yeah.
And so we set up the Koh Chang Guide and then later Koh Chang Map. If you wanted to know about the place, then you had to read publications. You had the Lonely Planet, but then the sort of insiders, local guides. That's, I guess, what we aimed to do, and we're really successful. And thankfully, we've made a living out of that for most of the time I've been here. But then as things moved to the internet in the sort of the late 2010s, stuff like that, there was a steady decline. Always had a idea for doing some other things. Had a second-hand bookshop for a little while.
Oh yeah.
But again, it's not a growth industry, is it?
Not really, no. Where did you get the books in from?
All over the place. You'd buy from sales in Bangkok and stuff like that. Major source was room cleaners from hotels.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's almost like a tip for them because lots used to get left, and then so you buy them off them and the whole thing. And it was a really nice thing to do, but again, not something that was going to last forever and ever. So I was thinking always about trying to get something sort of more lasting and permanent in some industry that wasn't going to suddenly close down and give up, what I mean? Yeah. So hence the villas.
And the restaurant.
The restaurants we've only been in for a couple of years.
So the villas came before the restaurant.
Yes,
then,
that's
yeah?
right. Yeah, that's right. And the restaurant, my wife's always wanted a restaurant. She comes from a restaurant family, so she that's been sort of a dream of hers forever. And a good opportunity came up, and you can only say no so many times, can't you? So we have a restaurant, and it's pretty cool. It's quite a nice thing to do as well.
Right, let's go and take a look then, yeah?
Sure.
All right, so this is lovely. The first thing that I thought about, having worked in this industry as well for a number of years, is that they're often built, these villas, with very little space. They're kind of shoeboxed in, and they sacrifice the size of the pool and the size of the garden space for getting more villas in. And you've made some really nice spacious villas here, Dave, yeah?
Well, that was what we targeted, and it was again all set up for not for long-term rentals. Not that we don't rent by month, and especially sometimes in the low season we do that, but for visits. And so just little things that we've tried to think of. So I don't know if you see at the bottom there, but we've got gates joining the villas. So each villa sleeps up to 6. There's 2 bedrooms and a double sofa bed downstairs, which is great for kids. But for bigger groups and families, we just open the gate, and then it becomes a huge shared area between the 2 villas.
And as an expat that's obviously built a couple of businesses here, how did you find the whole process, land acquisition, using construction workers? Did you have enough people to help, and any chaos in the equation?
Lots of chaos and lots of help, I suppose. That's the best way to go with it. Obviously I've been here quite a long time, but not doing anything like that, so big learning curve. And but like I say, I have a business partner, and it was a collaborative effort, and between us we got it all together, and learnt a lot in the process. Put it like that. If I ever do it again, I'll know really how to approach it, I guess. I don't know.
Is there anything in particular that stands out as something that if you were to do it again, or you might not do that, or?
No, especially we were pretty disaster free, really.
Okay.
So they didn't feel like that at the time, but it's sort of molehills and not mountains, that kind of thing. But for anybody approaching it, it's like, get good legal representation for your land purchase, get the answer to that, get good titled land, get an architect. These seem like really obvious things, but approach it professionally. Don't it's a big bit of money you're throwing at something, so have a real plan and think it through and get it together. But I guess that's the story with anything, isn't it?
And 25 years on the island, you would have heard some horror stories and seen how things have kind of gone wrong.
Yeah.
If you're an expat that's thinking, well, I'm not just coming here to retire, I want to do my business, I want to be on the island, what kind of mistakes have you seen been made and things to perhaps avoid?
I think there's just sort of a temptation to think that it's paradise, because it looks like paradise, it's amazing, it's a beautiful place and all of that, but then anywhere where you pay tax is by definition not paradise, isn't it? It's like, so it's getting a feel for it. I think the people who've struggled here have come in all guns blazing without a great deal of experience, and just thrown money at things, and it's slowly. I always advise people, if you're thinking of coming to live here, spend a few months first before you sell your house, before you pack up and do everything else. Come in, get a feel for it. It isn't for everyone.
No.
Living on an island is, for me, it's brilliant, and I like the fact that Bangkok's a fairly relatively short drive away, so civilization is at hand or whatever. But there's no cinema here. There's all these other activities that you might do rather than going to the pub aren't here. So that's lifestyle. Lifestyle is a different thing.
And talking about the lifestyle, there is quite a vibrant expat community here, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Like as an expat here, you have a certain friend circle, and people stick to their circles. You find that socializing really revolves around drinking as well, and
to a large extent, yeah, I guess. Yeah, not so much. There are other things. We've played cricket for a long time here, and that's a really nice thing. And sure, you have your circles of friends, and we've got there's a lot of people that have lived here for a long time now. But it being an island as well, there's a sort of a community thing where you know people from all over the place, and you hear what's going on. So so that's quite a nice thing.
Is privacy an issue on the island or not?
Well, if you don't tell anybody anything, everybody doesn't know about it. But yeah, island rumours is a thing. Something gets said and it's around like wildfire. So whenever there's a little scandal, it doesn't take long for everybody here to know about it.
Yeah. No, we touched upon it earlier a little bit of you being here 25 years, and you've seen massive changes on the island. Do you think that's an improvement overall of where the island's gone, or do you think maybe it's being overbuilt upon? And
people are sensitive about this, aren't they? And it's usually for most people, I think the perfect moment was the day they arrived.
Yeah.
And any time before that, they didn't really know about that, and after that it got worse. So I can't. I'm responsible for recommending people come here with a map and a guide, so I can't really bemoan it. It depends. It was nice then for what I was doing, but you've got to remember this sort of back in the day that it was kind of tricky. There were things like first mobile phone I got. If you wanted a good signal, you had to walk into the sea on White Sand Beach, and so there's all you see on sunset. You see all these people studying the sea, talking to the mum and stuff like that, and so. As infrastructure comes, it gets easier to live here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I love the fact. The villas here. There's a big sea supermarket just across the road there. That's convenient. That's really nice. You can get foreign goods, things that you could only dream of in the beginning. So, it all comes down to what degree of development people like. This suits me, but maybe not everybody. It's a tricky one.
What is your biggest struggle on the island? Like, what is the thing because you did mention as well, maybe you'll be off to the mainland at some point. I don't know if that was for golf or cricket or just peace.
Yeah, maybe in the future as we're gradually sort of withdrawing, my wife and I, from the running of this, and eventually there'll be some, we'll retire somewhere, maybe with health in mind. I don't know, because that is a factor. They have hospitals and clinics here, but anything serious, you evacuate to the mainland, and that's kind of a worry. So perhaps being somewhere a bit closer to stuff there. Apart from that, it's just it's actually not too bad here at all. There are difficulties running businesses. It's always hard to get staff. Mm-hmm. But I think that's probably the case with any seasonal tourist destination as well. So yeah. It's but yeah, it can be. Little things can be tricky. There's niggles and bits, but it's like that living anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah. So now you're in the restaurant business. Yeah. How are you finding it? Tell us a bit about the restaurant first. What kind of food it serves and.
Well, it's called Kapow, and the logo is like a kind of a Marvel cartoon Kapow, kind of sort of a play on the Thai. And it's mainly a Thai restaurant, although we do Western food, fish and chips and mushy peas, that kind of thing. So I had to put a little bit of my regional fare in there, didn't I? Have
you seen much difference between these businesses, much more pressure in the restaurant business, or is your wife mainly at the helm?
Yeah, my wife's mainly at the helm. She soaks up all the pressure because I would just collapse under it all. It's like I don't know how they do it in the kitchen. It's one of those things because you've got to get it right every time.
Yeah.
Plate after plate for the whole day, and that amazes me how they achieve that. I stay well away from that bit. From the, it's more the sort of setup and marketing and stuff like that, and the thought behind the decor and that. But yeah, it's been fun. It's a learning curve, like anything. But like I say, my wife has she has a restaurant background, and we've leaned very heavily on her sort of skill set with that. It's really her. She's in charge of sort of how the food's made, and especially the Thai food. And yeah, we're doing okay. We get reasonably all right reviews. I think I think we're doing fairly well.
Are you a person, Dave, that likes to stay very busy? Because it seems like you've got a lot going on with the map, with the villas. Are you a person? Do you plan to retire, or are you planning to keep adding to the businesses?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to add many more. And like I say now, my son and daughter-in-law live with us, and my son kind of runs things here. My daughter-in-law helps out with the restaurant. So I think we're gradually trying to pass the baton to a younger, more keen generation. So I'm beginning that sort of retirement curve now, I hope.
Yeah. Do you see yourself living like a rural Thailand life? That's kind of my lifestyle, you see.
Yeah.
So, or would you always want to be kind of close to the island?
I don't know. To some extent, this is rural in a way. I know you've got lots of Western restaurants, you've got these things, but you are on an island, you are fairly remote. So if I go anywhere, I'm going to be a bit closer. The place we're thinking of is Chantaburi, and that's kind of next province along from Trat on the way to Bangkok. So it's convenient for my wife's family. We can come and go from here, and it's a pretty big town. And that's quite nice as well. So it's, it's not so big that it's like an urban sprawl, but you can have a little place just out of town there and get into town if you want.
What do you think is like the most misunderstood part of like living on an island and island life for people, the way they might imagine it to the reality of it?
I suppose the low season's the key. And that's, I was saying before that if people were thinking of coming and living here, I'd encourage them to spend a bit of time. I'd encourage them to spend a bit of time in the low season.
Yeah.
Because, the weather apps don't help, because they will tell you for Koh Chang for 6 months a year it's going to rain solid every day. It doesn't, but you do get quite a bit of rain. It's just that sort of, it's not like that English mizzling rain, it's just proper tropical rain. But that's the thing, and it's quieter. It's not as quiet as it used to be because there's so many long-term residents, but, when all the tourists go away, it's a very different place. And you sort of, I think if you live here for a while, you kind of grow to enjoy that peace as well.
But it's time off too, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But it's a very two-phase life. That's the thing. It's like it's all on, and then it sort of eases way off, and it doesn't suit everybody.
Yeah. Now, do you think that businesses? This is kind of one of the main reasons some businesses close down, because they can't get through the low season.
You've got to plan for it. Your high season, especially, you have some good months, but those good months are funding, your first couple of good months or whatever part of your high season, that gets you covered for the low season.
Yeah.
If your businesses can break even and make a small amount for living in the low season, that's really good. You're doing well.
Yeah.
And the high season's good enough to cover that. But you do have to have in your mind all the time that things will quieten down. And it's that sort of, it's that feast and famine thing that you just got to get a balance with it. And it's very feasible.
How are you treated as a foreigner, as an expat on the island? Is there two communities, Thai and expat, or do they blend together quite well on the island, or?
Bit of both, really. There's a lot of, because it's because you're on an island, then everybody's sort of there. They're all sort of together. I suppose I spend more time with expats than I do with Thai friends. But there's not. I don't know. Again, having been here for this long, you kind of like it or not, you're part of the furniture. It's just like.
But do you feel after 25 years, though, I've been here 15 plus myself, do you feel there's a changing attitude towards Farang in Thailand? Do you think the experience here is different, just as the buildings and the construction has all changed? Do you think it's changed the way Farangs are perceived, or do you think for you it's just very much the same and that impacts more tourist areas? Or
I don't really notice any discernible difference.
Really?
Yeah.
Just the same.
From the time I've been here, it's always been how it is. There are some things that are difficult, but that's the case anywhere, isn't it? Sort of administration in a country that's not your home country. Even in your home country, it's hard, isn't it? So there's little hurdles and things like that you face, but. No, I don't really notice any. If there's some trend, I haven't figured it out on the little island here, put it like that.
Well, Koh Chang seems quite insulated as well. It's not the most touristy island of Thailand, right? For those that don't know, the viewers back home, Koh Chang is somewhere a lot of folks from Bangkok will visit, right? And a lot of expats will come to visit here, but it's not like a Samui or a PP. Do you think it has been quite insulated as compared to like Phuket or Pattaya?
Well, it developed later. I think that was the big reason that that it hasn't turned into a Phuket or a Samui, and because it doesn't have an airport, that's an important thing as well. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little, even though it's quite an easy drive from Bangkok, it's perceived as hard to get to because you can't get the flight in, and that's kind of a good and a bad thing because it means you don't get the huge package tourism that you get in some of the other places, which is it is what it is. It's something it's just but that's quite nice here, and because it's a national park, it's a beautiful rainforest island where 80% is national park. There's only so much development you can have.
Yeah.
And so that gives me some hope, at least for the future, where some places overdevelop. That the national park here have teeth, and they're very strict about the rules and encroachment and things like that. And then they're making pretty good efforts to look after the place, which is great.
Let me ask you specifically about Lonely Beach, though, because I've seen Lonely Beach is one of the first places I ever came. I think within the first week of ever coming to Thailand, in my very early 20s, that was the first place I arrived. It was a bit of a backpacker place, and it had a bit of an atmosphere. To me, it seems completely different now. It seems completely changed. Does it to you, or I don't know how much time you spend down there, but
It's a long drive back when you've had a couple of beers, so I'm not down there at night very often. I do have friends down there though with businesses, and they seem to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I know it took a while to bounce back from COVID, and perhaps longer than other places. I'm not sure why that is, and whether there's a demographic shift with backpackers. They're a little, sometimes a place is in vogue and then it isn't. But it's such an amazing island that I think it's always going to be on the route.
Yeah. Quick curveball. How did you meet your wife?
She was working in a restaurant here
On the island?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So, and you just went into the restaurant one day and...
Not really. Sort of knew her over a period of time, so and sort of went on from there, I guess.
15 years ago?
25 years.
Oh, 25 years ago, of course.
Well, my stepson Q is 27 now, but I adopted him, I think, when he was about 5 or something, so,
I think that's the first time I've heard someone just meet somebody and stay with them for the whole 25 years and, not...
Yeah, you never know what fate has in store for you, but here I am, still smiling, so that's a good thing.
Well, you and I both know as well many different expats and many different successful relationships. I feature a lot of successful relationships on my channel. The channel is not a channel of, she took all my money and that sort of thing. I try to feature the successful relationships, and there are many. What do you think is a good way to meet somebody in Thailand for expats coming here, and what do you think makes a successful relationship between a foreigner and a Thai?
The first part, not sure. All those dating sites, I don't know about those things, thankfully. But just getting out somewhere where you can meet real people, and I suppose all cross-cultural relationships, culture's a big thing, and understanding of how people have different ways of going about stuff, and you don't want everybody to be the same as you, do you? So some of the differences are good, some of them are tricky.
Yeah. Do you speak Thai, Dave?
Not as well as I should. I can read a menu, but I can't read a newspaper. I muddle along. You don't need it much on the island, and I definitely lean on my wife for the Thai quite a lot. But then when I go to the mainland, I sort of pick up my Thai again and then come back here and forget it again.
And you've literally been island life the whole time, isn't it? So there is no necessity to do it. I've lived in places like Ratchaburi, nobody there speaks English, so you kind of have to.
That's the way to go. If you're in a place where you have to speak Thai, that for me that would be the way to ultimately get fluent.
That's a benefit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And even a bit, I'd thoroughly recommend anybody who's here to try and learn a bit of Thai, because it really does help you.
Might be worth just spending a year in a remote place just for that, right?
Possibly. Maybe not a full year.
It seems to have gone quite smoothly for you, Dave. Suspiciously smoothly.
Didn't always feel like that.
Yeah. Well, because you've come 25 years, you met the partner that you've stuck with the whole time, you've built a couple of businesses that went quite smoothly. It all seems to be the good life.
Well, I could tell you the really bad bits, but then there have been ups and downs. Trust me, there have been ups and downs, but it's just you just battle through, don't you? You're going to get tricky bits wherever you are in your life, aren't you?
Well, you made it, and many don't make it. Many return. There's many people I've seen come, and 12 months later, I've had enough, or money's run out and whatnot. Were there times where you thought money was going to run out and you weren't going to make it?
COVID's really tricky. Like I said at the start, we did okay with the villas, but just okay, and there was some debts to service there. In the end, I was thinking about going back and doing a bit of work back in the UK, and did some online writing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that sort of helped me survive through COVID. It was a lot of fun just writing all the different things that AI does it all now, so it's a good thing there wasn't AI then, because I would have been penniless. But that was kind of a fun thing to do. I've always liked writing, and so that was it was actually quite an enjoyable way to scratch by through COVID.
Something about moving to Thailand, I don't know if it's been the same for you, but for me, I've done a lot of entrepreneurial things and built things up and then lost things, and gone broke a few times. There's something about coming to Thailand because there's no safety net and you really want to stay, that makes you really push on through as an entrepreneur. And you've really got to find here was you with the magazine, with the villas. I don't know if you had the restaurant then, but you, to make ends meet, you were doing writing online. It's kind of like a don't give up attitude.
Well,
if you've got to make it work,
you've got to get by. And I think, you know, by running your own business in any way, you've got to be prepared to. There's, you know, there isn't a safety net, like you say. You are the safety net, and it gives you self-reliance, which is a brilliant thing to have, you know. And so yeah, there's been times when everything's been tricky, but you just you just battle on through, don't you?
Was there any time in particular you thought, no, I've had enough, I'm going to Australia again, I'm going back to the UK?
You know, I've never thought that. Never at all. Not that I didn't, you know, I'm not a UK hater at all. I've really enjoyed living everywhere I've lived in my life. But I like it here better. It's just when you get out of the airport, you walk out of Savannah Plum Airport into that wall of wet heat, and it's just like, right, I'm home. Where's a 7-Eleven?
Right, lovely. So thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks for inviting us here today. If you want to check out Dave's place, it's the Pearl Luxury Villas, situated very close to the beach as well, aren't you?
Yeah, just 100 metres down there. There's a little pebble beach, and we're between two sort of major beaches on the island. So it's, you know, there's a little bit of peace and quiet here, but then everything's on your doorstep as well.
All right, so those links are for you below, and thanks a lot, David.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.